Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you join us today. My name is Steven. I'm going to be the moderator for today's web shop. We're excited to welcome you guys to part 3 and the final installment of our Beyond Price and Quality web shop series and discuss the final 5% mastering project closeout procedures. So just a few housekeeping notes I wanted to address. We've limited audio and video just to the presenters today, so not to worry if you're wondering why you're unable to go on camera or off mute. And although this is a presentation, we invite you guys to partake, interact with us throughout the session. This is truly meant to be more of a true workshop rather than just one-way communication. So please feel free to interrupt and engage and leverage that Q&A box. Just as a note as well, the Q&A box can be found on the far left of your drop-down bar under More. It is not the chat box. It's going to be the Q&A box that you guys are going to be able to leverage and interact with us with. So we are going to have a designated Q&A session towards the end of this, but that doesn't mean that we can't take pause and answer any questions as they arise. And also, don't worry about taking any extensive notes. All attendees will receive a copy of today's presentation for your reference and a few other valuable key takeaway items. Okay, so you're probably wondering who these other people are that are joining me on the session today. And it's my pleasure to introduce Dave Nate, founder and CEO of WCP Building Renewal, as well as Heinrich Schumann, managing partner. And between these two guys, we have over 40 years of industry experience presenting to us today. So two industry vets bringing us their knowledge. Great to have you guys join. We also do have Lisa Garrett, who is our office manager. Lisa is going to be in charge of monitoring the Q&A chat box. And of course, I'm Steven, business development manager. So moving along, we do get a lot of questions about our name. For instance, what does WCP stand for? And not to confuse it as well with WCB, but well, WCP is an acronym for our original name, Wolfgang Commercial Painters, and serves as a tribute to our 20 years in business. You might also be wondering why we've added Building Renewal to our name and what the heck Building Renewal is. And well, that's a great question. Simply put, it encompasses the revitalization and restoration of a building's exterior and interior surfaces, which include high and low-rise building restorations and interior common area remodels. Now, in terms of our services in a bit more detail, I'm not going to read them off the page, but these are our exterior services, which do represent full building envelope renewal. And we get this question all the time. Do we do interior? And yes, we absolutely do. So some of those services are represented here. And now that you know that what we do, it's important to also know what we do not do and the services we don't provide. We don't do new construction. Restoration, quite a broad term. But in terms of disaster restoration as it relates to fire and flood, we do not do that. And we also do not do window and roofing installation. So this side, pretty self-explanatory and just represents a handful of our clients and partnerships. We're really proud of these. And a lot of the brands you see on here have been our clients for a number of years, and we've had the pleasure of working on a number of successful projects with them. And I'm actually just looking at some of our attendees. There's some representation from some of these brands on the call today. So welcome to you guys. So last piece before we truly dive in and just looking at some of the key outcomes. So we will revisit these towards the end as a summary, just to make sure that each of these points were addressed and clarified. But first, we're going to be discussing and preparing for a seamless job close and setting the foundation needed to ensure that your project is set up for success from the very beginning. We'll also evaluate the key steps for a successful closeout process. And if all else fails, we'll discuss next steps and the steps necessary to pull a project out of the fire and make sure we can get things back on track. And lastly, we're going to take a look at a few tools and templates that will be provided to you after this session as a takeaway and can be used immediately for your upcoming projects. Okay, well, that's all the housekeeping for today. So diving in, let's dive into the content. Heinrich, going to invite you to take the reins. Please take it away.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Steven, thank you. Great you could join us here this morning as we jump into this fun category, job closes, the final 5%. Yeah, and look, what are we trying to get out of an effective job close? What do we want out of an effective job close at the end of the day? Right. And as an intro to all of this, to kind of lay of the land as we move forward, what are we looking for? We're really looking for three key things. And you might have lots of different outcomes, but there's really three key things. You want a project that's on time, you want a project that's on budget, and you want a happy ownership group or individual, right? Like that's really what you're looking for at the end of the day. Right? That's the dream. But as some of you, maybe all of you have probably experienced, it can be difficult to realize that dream on every project, let alone most projects. And so, hey, we have over 4,000 projects now under our belt. We do know something about doing projects the right way, and we've definitely experienced the opposite, projects going the wrong way as well. Experienced it all, and this web shop is really a culmination of all of that. It's about providing you with the best practices, tips, tools that we've gathered along the way to make sure that you get those things for a job close, that you are able to deliver it on time, on budget, with happy owners, right? That's what this is all about, So high level, that's where we're going. And, getting into this section, how to prepare for a seamless job close. Prepare is the key word there, because like so much in life, it's all about prep, right? It's all about preparation. It's all about what you do ahead of time. And we'd be remiss if we didn't speak to that. And so, a great job close starts with great preparation, well before you get into the key steps that Dave is going to speak to a little bit later. Right. So I'm going to talk to two key phases, right, in this preparation phase, even before we get to the job close. The first is the project tender meeting, and I'll get into why that's important. And the second is the pre-production meeting, right, and why these are incredibly important. Steve briefly spoke to it. We actually have whole web shops prior to this too that dive into this and much more, right, in great detail, but we've distilled down sort of the two major steps that are necessary to really set you on the path for an effective job close. And these are them. All right, let's dive in.
H, just before you dive in here, I thought I overheard you say that we've experienced jobs before that didn't seamlessly close. Is that correct?
Yeah, maybe one or two. Maybe one or two.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't remember. Those must have been your jobs. Anyways, let's move on to
Yes,
the next
yes,
step.
yes. Absolutely. Nice. Thank you, Dave. All my projects closing sideways. No, yeah, it's hey, it's a reality. It happens, and that's that's what this is all about. We'll talk about that after. All right, let's jump in here. So, project tender meeting, what does this look like? First off, what is a project tender meeting? Well, it's a meeting that's on site with all stakeholders prior to the bids being submitted. So this is you bringing everybody together. And what are you trying to accomplish here with this? You're trying to ensure that all stakeholders are aligned on the project requirements and your contractors are bidding in accordance with those requirements. So why is this important to a job close? Why is this step crucial to a job close? Well, it ensures that you get a really clear scope of work and that it's comprehensive and aligned. It brings everybody together on site in person to make sure that happens. So what does it actually look like high level? Well, you're literally touring the site. You're talking about the scope of work. You're talking about the project requirements. You're encouraging questions. You're encouraging comments, right, as you go through. And you're addressing any potential issues that pop up. What are some of the issues that could emerge? Well, maybe there's something that you envisioned that was in scope that maybe is going to add a whole layer of complexity. We'll talk about that proactively, right? Rather than just shoving it in and then during the production process, and worse, during the project completion, the job close process, everybody's scratching their heads as to how you're even going to do that thing. You might be addressing permit issues that pop up proactively that need to be addressed. Access challenges, the list is endless, right? Unforeseen repairs, potential change orders that haven't been considered that can be considered even before the bids are in. right? All of these steps taken ensure that you're going to minimize change orders, and the bidder that you do select, the contractor, has a dialed in project detail, scope, tender document for you, right? They're completely set up. Their proposal is rock solid. This is setting the project up for success, and you're well on your way to a great job close. On that contractor piece, it's important to note, one of the major outcomes here is that you're going to feel out, your contractors. This meeting gives you that opportunity. It's going to allow you to look at their responsiveness through the process. It's going to allow you to look at their professionalism. It's going to, see, hey, what kind of questions do they ask throughout, and how responsive are they after this meeting, this project tender meeting, right? And that's really going to guide you to selecting the right contractor, which, as we all know, is an incredibly important part of this process if you want a great job close. So to that point, Steve, let's move to the tool that we have for everybody that we're going to share for you. So we actually have a contractor vetting checklist right on that line. So you can see there lots of different things. This is just a summary. Again, we will send this to you after this with some other tools and, of course, a summary of the whole presentation. But on here, you can see every project is unique, and we highly encourage you take this and you customize it for your projects. But you can see safety requirements that might be important, online compliance requirements, like right at the onset. You're like, hey, let's set these expectations. Certifications, dependent on the nature of the project, whether it's a roofing project or a renewal project or an HVAC project, all are going to have different certifications and needs depending on the materials you're using and the kinds of trades, right? So you detail all of that so that you can vet and ensure you select the right contractor to set you up for success, and most importantly, ensure the job closes right. Okay, so that is our first phase, in terms of good prep to set you up for success. On to section 2, the pre-production meeting. Okay, great. So the project has been awarded. You've selected a great contractor. Now what? Well, it needs to be kicked off, right? So what is a pre-production meeting at core? It's that kickoff meeting. It's bringing everyone together once again, so all the stakeholders that are going to be involved in the process, and making sure that all are on the same page to ensure that project moves forward smoothly, right? So what's important in a great, pre-production meeting to set you up? Well, you're going to make sure you get alignment on roles, right? So that's one of the elements. So, who's the project manager and what specifically are they doing? Who is the key site contact here, right? That's going to be liaisoning with them on an ongoing basis. Are there engineers involved, architects involved? What are their roles in this, right? And how often are they going to be checking in on things? So all of that gets discussed at this meeting. You're also going to be talking about logistics. So equipment locations that are going to pop up, materials, exactly what kind of materials. This has been specified, but it's another thing to select things like color or type of concrete, wood, other materials that get incorporated. Like, you have to consider all of that, right? Tenant concerns. Whether this is a commercial building, a multi-unit residential building, industrial, whatever, there's going to be people involved, right? What are the concerns that need to be addressed? So those get discussed as well. And finally, communication, right? What is the noticing strategy? How is that going to look? Planning that here. What about project updates? How are those going to be sent through? A little note on project updates. These regular updates, if they're happening, that's all guiding the project to effective completion, to a great job close. If you do those along the way, if those are happening, believe me, this is going to streamline the whole process because everybody will be aligned and on the same page. See that term, alignment, coming up again and again and again, and it's so important here, right? When you're dealing with lots of people, clients, stakeholders, alignment is crucial, right? So this pre-production meeting will set you up for that. We got another tool for you, right, to help you out on this phase. And that's the pre-production form, right? So you can see this broken out as well. Same thing. We will share this with you to make sure that you have this, adapt it, use it for your needs. And again, this is something that you can use directly. you can pass on and be like, hey, use this template. You don't have to do it yourself. If somebody else is going to lead that, that's fine. But leverage this tool, adapt it, and you can see we've got administrative details in there, scope and schedule details to clarify, right? Project duration notes and so forth. And then scheduling review, going through all sorts of specifics, parking, keys and fobs, alarm codes, etc. Lots of great stuff in there to get clarified to ensure the project is set up for success. Okay, so that's the form, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about a pitfall. And this may not be a surprise given what I've been talking about so far, but that pitfall is all stakeholders not at the tender or pre-production meeting. So what are we talking about when we say that? Well, it can be painful. It can be hard to be like, oh, geez, do we all actually have to come to a meeting in person for these things, for that tender meeting, for the pre-production meeting? And the answer is absolutely yes, right? You really do. There may be technology that you can leverage if it's, afar or something like that, but everybody needs to come together. Why? This is going to avoid endless emails, project delays, and it's going to keep the project on track if this happens. Right? If these happen and they happen together with all stakeholders there. If it doesn't, you're going to have some engineer that's misaligned, or a contractor that doesn't understand, or somebody else that's not clear. And again, that term I mentioned before, alignment starts to go awry and things go sideways. Your project close, or great project close, is in jeopardy. So make sure you follow this, bring everybody together, and you are well on your way to a great project close. All right. That's the prep phase.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you, Heinrich. And as you mentioned, the content that we just went through, we do dive into more detail at part 1 and part 2 of this Webshop series. And we will be presenting on those again in 2025, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention those steps because they truly set the foundation for your project and ensure things get started successfully. I'm going to mention again as well, we're inviting questions during this presentation. So please, if anything comes up, leverage that Q&A and we'll be happy to provide some answers. One thing to keep in mind as well before we move on into some more content is that we do offer tailored lunch and learn sessions. We've got a few great topics that are outlined on this slide, which include the content from today's session, as well as the content from previous web shops that we've done recently. And we've been executing a number of these over the course of the last several months and have been getting some terrific feedback. So we'd love to bring this content or other topics of discussion into your office and present that to your team. This was actually a recent lunch and learn we did for Hudson Pacific that I wanted to flag. And, we can do this at your office. We can host you at ours, or actually just yesterday, we did a virtual lunch and learn for a client, and it went really well. So if your team is remote, virtual is always an option. So if you oversee continued learning at your company, please contact me directly after this session. I'd be more than happy to discuss details with you. Great. Well, moving things along, I'm going to invite Dave to take the reins. Dave's going to take us through project closeout process. Dave, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, H. So yeah, project closeout. Heinrich just went you through 2 key preparatory stages to get to the part of the project where you're ready to close it out and stop it from dragging on and on and on. That's the goal of this session, is to help you guys get projects closed efficiently. Just want to say all of this content and all of the content throughout all of our web shops is applicable to all construction services, all building maintenance, contractor types or service types, and all job sizes. So whether you're dealing with a relatively small job, call it a $20,000 job, some of those small jobs can be super complex and maybe have a lot of logistical items to consider, all the way up to the $1 million, $1.5 million, $3 million project, where of course you're going to have designated project managers, third parties involved, but we want to arm property managers with some tools so they can at least follow along. And if they see things going sideways, like, hey, those guys from WCP Building Renewal gave me this job close form, and I don't think these things are being followed. You can bring it up with the people that are working with you on these larger projects. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Super transferable tools and best practices across all job sizes, all project types. So before we dive into the 4-step process of how to actually close a job out effectively, we're going to start right with a red flag right off the beginning, because this is where things go sideways. It's your owners getting involved too early. And I'm hazarding a guess that the vast majority of the people on this web shop have experienced this. They're doing it for good reason. And you especially see it in multi-res strata work. Commercial, not so much. In commercial, there's a higher get it factor. The business to business side of things, they just hire a professional. They want them to do their job. Stratas, they like to get involved, as you are well aware. It's their homes, so it makes sense why they don't get involved. So I'm sure you've all experienced scenarios where a job is getting close to completion. Say it's like 2 or 3 weeks away. The strata can see that, 80% of the units have been re-roofed. And then they start taking it upon themselves to start walking the job sites, and they're noticing, oh, there's a downspout that wasn't fastened to the gutter properly, or geez, this scupper, the membrane hasn't been cut around that yet, or why is there a ladder over here when they said this unit was done? Whatever it may be. What happens when that goes on is tensions start to rise. And your contractor starts to get frustrated and annoyed that they haven't declared the project is ready to inspect yet. Their crew starts to walk on eggshells a little bit. The owners start to wonder what's going on. How come this hasn't been done? Where are they at? Why didn't they come back and do this part? It really opens up a can of worms. So you want to avoid this. And this gets through us for the first step of an effective job close. And that is the contractor declares that the project is substantially complete. Look, you've done all the work in doing a proper project tender meeting, like Heinrich discussed. You've done a pre-production meeting to kick the job off properly. You've hired a professional. Let them do their job. Any legit contractor in any service, they have a proper job closeout procedure that they follow. I can tell you, behind the scenes, as a job is getting close to completion on our side and other company sides that are, construction firms have been around for a long time, tension rises in the back end because we want jobs to close out effectively too. And we know what drags jobs on. So as we're getting closer and closer, we're going through an internal process of deficiency inspections, of starting demobilizing, of documenting materials and warranties. Like the admin team is doing their thing, the production team is there doing their team, the boots on the ground are doing their thing. Okay, so there's a whole system that unravels behind the scenes, and then once they're ready, they will come to you and say, all right, we're ready for the owners to take a look. And that's step 2, owners or stakeholders. And it's important at this step, we believe, that the owners do their walkthrough on their own without the pressure of having the contractor standing there. They're going to go through, they're going to identify a bunch of things. They might come through with a 2-page list of questions or deficiencies, and that's okay. The fact of the matter is, most of the time, 75% of those items the contractor is already aware of, and they're going to be taken care of, so it's no big deal. They're going to be fresh eyes on the project. They might point out a few things. That's all good. But if they go through on their own, they feel comfortable, they take their time. If the job has been produced effectively, there's been weekly summaries, it's highly likely that the contractor or the crew lead has a great relationship with the people there already. So there's probably not much is going to come up, but let them do it on their own. Let them take their time. And that takes us to step 3. So the contractor says, yeah, I'm substantially complete. Let the owners do their thing. The owners do their thing. Maybe there's a few items identified that gets transferred back to the contractor. They take care of it. They get things nicely cleaned up, and then the final inspection. We like to call it the reveal. This is the moment where we reveal to the owners the finished product. This is not the area where we're looking for deficiencies. That's already been done from the contractor side and the owner side. We walk through all stakeholders in person. So the property manager, the contractor, the owner's representative, a consultant if they're involved, a designer if it's an interior thing. It's another key stakeholder to get there. You walk through and everybody's like, wow, this is exciting. Like, look at our new roof, look at our new windows, look at our new deck membranes, look at all these cracks in our foundation of our parquet that were fixed, whatever it might be, right? So this is the reveal. Now, we're going to give you a tool to use on those. We'll get to that in a second. But at this walkthrough, you're going to start discussing key things like, what does the demobilization process look like? And that's the fourth step. So let's just move on to that. Great. Demobilizing. What does that mean? It's, fancy project management talk for breaking everything down and getting out of your hair. So what happens in that stage? Equipment gets taken off. You're going to have aerial equipment on your site, maybe swing stages. Maybe there's going to be site containment, fences, site protection, whatever. That all comes off. Mobile toilet facilities or storage facilities or staging areas. That's all gets broken down. There's going to be a whole series of administrative things that need to be taken care of. Warranty certificates, statutory declarations, whatever you have on your side contractually that needs to be done. I promise you the contractor is going to want to talk about final billing and invoicing and getting paid in a timely fashion for the last few invoices. All of those things can get discussed, identified at this final inspection walkthrough, and then a plan is put in place to deal with all of it with deadlines. So let's take a look at that tool. We're going to give you guys job close form. Super simple checklist and form for you to fill out. We're going to share it with you guys. You can add it to maybe some assets that you already have or repurpose it in a way, or just use our form, whatever works for you. But it's going to document all the things that we believe need to get done for a job to get closed effectively, to get through that final 5% so it doesn't drag on and on and on, giving you headaches. This is the whole purpose of this workshop, is to make your life a little easier with these construction projects. You are all so busy as property managers. So this tool will be good for you. And like I said, if it's a large project and you've got like outsourced project management or a consultant or an engineer, you can still use these tools to follow along and ask some questions. Like, hey, what is the deadline for demobilization? Or what about warranty certificates? How are we getting that? I know that's important to my owners. So you can use these tools behind the scenes, super helpful. So before we move on to the next slide, look, we've got 3 hours of content that we do in our web shops. It's how to select the right contractor, project management for property professionals, and then this web shop, the final 5%. It's a lot of stuff. Okay, you can follow all the steps that we give you to get the job done on time, on budget, with everybody happy. And unfortunately, things do go sideways. So here's the big mic drop moment of this whole entire web shop series. What do you do if a job goes sideways despite best efforts? Envision the big mic, boom, it drops, truth bombs, all that things, because it does happen. There's one thing you can do. And I will argue with any project management engineering consultant what to do when you to get a job done. If it's gone sideways, you need to bring everybody together in person for another a job walk, and you utilize this job close form that we've given you, and you go through it step by step. Truth be told, if you've got a project that's gone sideways or just is not closing up for whatever reason, a contractor's gone off and started the new project, a bright shiny object for us, right? Or you've got that owner, bless their heart, that just will not stop inspecting. and you've got emails coming from one side. Hey, what about this? What about this? And the contractor's responding, we took care of that. We took care of that. Stop hassling me. The job's done. There's only one thing to do, and that's bring everybody together in one meeting. It's likely going to be a slightly awkward meeting. Tensions might be high, but as people come together and communicate, and the owner says, well, you didn't do this. You said you were going to do this. And the contractor explains that they did, or maybe they forgot, maybe they missed it. They get it done. Or the contractor explains why they used this building material because it was in the spec. The owners didn't realize that, whatever it might be. Tension will diminish, and you'll put a plan in place to get the thing done. And then the job will get done. You will get it completed. That is the only way to deal with it. So if you're in the scenario where the emails are flying back and forth, contractor says I'm done, owners say they're not done, bring everybody together, have that meeting, follow our job close form, and your problem will get solved. So that's it. A lot of stuff there for you. We're gonna move into a Q&A period, and hopefully we get a lot of great questions there. But let's just quickly recap. So moving on to just our outcomes slide, right? When we started this session, we talked about a few key pieces of knowledge that we wanted to share with you, and we want to make sure, test these outcomes, make sure we've done that. So how to prepare for a seamless job close. Well, that's what H was talking about. That's all about selecting the right contractor, and you do that by holding a project tender meeting. Okay. You get your vetted contractors on site. You go over the scope of work. You get questions answered in one meeting. You use our contractor vetting checklist. You choose the right contractor, and away you go. That is really key. First preparatory step. The next one is the pre-production meeting. You've got the right contractor on board. Let's kick this job off effectively by, again, getting people together and talking about how the job is going to plan out, clarifying scope, clarifying communication, all that great stuff. And we're going to give you a tool to do that. Okay. So that's how you prepare for a job close. It's all about prep, right? Then we talked about the 4 key steps to a successful job closeout. And number 1 is the contractor declares the project is substantially complete. Remember, do not let the owners get involved until that stays. Then the owners do their walkthrough. Then you do that final walkthrough, reveal, inspection, whatever you want to call it. And then you go through the demobilization process. And then the truth bomb. Well, what happens when you do all this stuff and job still isn't closing? You bring everybody together and you go through that job close form ruthlessly, diligently, making sure all ducks in a row, conflict is resolved, everybody's on the same page with deadlines, and away you go. And the job will get closed out. So there you go. And like I said, we've got a number of tools here that we're going to share with you that you guys can use along with the deck to go back and review. So there you go, the final 5%. That's how it's done. Let's roll on to a Q&A.
That's great. Thank you, Dave. Well, I know, guys, that's a lot of content. Can often maybe feel like drinking water from a fire hose, but it's valuable stuff, and it's a lot to get through. But any sort of clarification questions that you guys have from any of the things that we've discussed during today's session, now's the time. Please feel free, hit that Q&A box, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I should say, though, if there's outstanding questions after this presentation, I'm more than happy to follow up, or I'll provide you my contact information. You can get in touch with me directly. So the first question, I'm not really sure, Heinrich, Dave, which one of you guys want to take this one, but I think we touched on it, but it's important to kind of maybe explain it just in a little bit more detail. This one comes from an anonymous attendee, and it says, what kind of report does the contractor give that shows a proper job closeout has been done?
Great. H, you want to take it, or do you want me to take it?
Oh yeah, no problem. No problem. Okay. Yeah, no. So, I mean, what kind of report? Well, again, it's going to be dependent on the project. It's going to be dependent on the trade. And these are kind of talking about preparation, bringing it back. This is discussed and aligned on prior, right? In terms of what that process is going to look like. And through that, you're going to have the steps, you're going to go through the steps that Dave discussed, and you're going to say, hey, this is the documentation we're going to be providing. Like for us, for example, we provide a specific project completion package at the end, right? That's documenting everything. You know, we're going to be providing a specific list of anything that's outstanding in terms of deficiencies and those being completed as well. So you just want to make sure that that alignment is had prior, right? It's like, what does this look like? Get aligned that everybody's happy with that process. Generally, a quality contractor will have it already in place and then ensure that it gets delivered on.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. The key to this is the reporting that you're you're going to get the documented completion certificate, warranty certificate, maintenance manual, all those things. But the key to this is that most contractors will do it ongoing, right? Like your weekly updates. If you've worked with us before, you've probably gotten our emails where it says like quick project update, and then boom, here's a list. Here's what's done. Here's % complete. Here's what's next. Here's some items that came up. Here's a change order where we need to discuss. It's ongoing as the job goes. So it's not just a giant laundry list at the end of the project.
Excellent. Excellent. Nice. Okay, great. Awesome question there. Thank you so much. Moving in. We've got Sandrina. Great to see you, Sandrina. The question coming in is that she's the project manager for an upper flat roof replacement, but they are not accessible due to the height. So her question is there no, so there is no final walkthrough. Progress pictures have been forwarded on a timely basis, illustrating the work completed. So her question is, how can she be assured that the work is done per the contract and release the holdback?
Yeah, great question. So lots of tools out there for this. I'm guessing the contractor you're working with is likely using one of them. There's one in particular called Company Cam, where you can not only document all the photos, progress photos, that they can be marked up. You can also do video walkthroughs, which is super handy. And if the contractor you're working with doesn't have that, ask them to do this, like record a FaceTime call. They walk through looking at the key details of the job in a roofing project. I don't know what it is, whether it's torch on, seams, how it's wrapping up on the parapet walls, how they're finishing off cap flashing, all the little details that they maybe want to highlight for you or were key to the job being done, mill thickness, testing if it's a liquid membrane, whatever it is, they can be documented by video, and then links can just be shared with you, and you and your owners can look at it and feel confident that the job is done according to specs. So great opportunity to leverage technology there.
Yeah, and to double down on that, you just don't want to be guessing. I mean, I'm sure you have a reputable contractor, but if they've sent you, 5 pictures that identify a few good spots, but you don't really have a clear sense of what the broader project looks like, to Dave's point, you definitely want to make sure that you request and document the entire scope of work, right? In some way, shape, or form, whether it's comprehensive pictures, video, or another tool, to make sure you're like, hey, great, we can see clearly that this has been done to specification.
Yeah. And the video is great because, like in the example of a roof, like a torch on, they can video, like the torch on actually happening. Your owners can see, oh wow, this looks good. They're not going to be technical experts, but they can be like, wow, this goopy stuff sure looks like it's filling up this seam, right? And it'll help them have some peace of mind, right?
That's great. And this one's kind of in the same vein, this question. And again, coming from an anonymous attendee, but the question is, what happens to holdback if a job is not properly closed?
Yeah, no, so I can chime in on that one. Yeah, I mean, again, if the project isn't effectively closed, I mean, yeah, you're holding on to the holdback until it is, right? And that goes back to Dave's mic drop moment, because nobody wants this, because the contractor is going to be frustrated, you're going to be frustrated, the client's going to be frustrated, everybody's going to be frustrated, right? So if there's an improper job close, what do? I'm asking everybody, what do you do? I mean, and you know what to do. The answer is, like, have that meeting, come together, bring all the stakeholders together and get alignment, right? On like, hey, okay, this is where we are. How are we going to get this thing closed? You know, what are the issues? Get everybody on the same page, have it documented, have a time frame to get it done, and it gets done, right? And you follow up on that. That's really the answer ultimately. So this doesn't just drag on.
Yeah, excellent. Dave, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the unlucky scenario where, you know, maybe the right contractor wasn't selected and and they're not completing the job, you still hold this meeting, and one of the outcomes might be the contractor might say, "Look, I'm not coming in to redo this," well, then you've got to bring in someone to fix it for you, whatever it is, and obviously that gets deducted off of their holdback. So it's even if you're in that scenario, you still got to do this meeting. That might be the outcome of the meeting in an absolute worst case scenario. Yeah.
Great. And that leads to another question that came through. And I mean, it's an extension of that, but I'm just curious in your guys' experience. Like the question is, can we change the contractor if a job close is not up to par? Have you guys seen that scenario happen, or what would kind of be your recommendation in that?
Yeah, that's what I just spoke to, and it's a worst case scenario, for sure. And you know, on larger projects, there's bonding put in place to deal with that exact thing. It's a performance bond. What happens if you cannot or are not willing to complete the job? And then another contractor is brought in. But yeah, worst case scenario. Look, if you've been herding cats over and over and over and over again, that might be the only viable solution. But you want to get that aligned and agreed on with all the stakeholders. And that's how you get it across the line. Yeah.
Great. And that answers another question that we had outstanding, was just how to resolve disputes or challenges in a project. But I think that just speaks to what we just went through, and, you know, structuring this to make sure you're mitigating that as much as possible.
Yeah, it's what we're hoping you guys can avoid, you know, being as busy as property managers are, facility managers are, is the influx of complaints from all sides, right? Contractor, owner, consultant, third-party project manager. And we're, like we said, the only way to resolve that is to get it's like any conflict, is to get everybody in the same room.
Yeah.
And clear the air. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And shifting gears back, Sandrina had a follow-up question. Reads, what if Strata was managing a balcony project and upon completion released the holdback too soon? She notes that when she visited the property for a council meeting, that she noticed some surfaces were not painted. So what can the Strata Council do in this instance on your guys' recommendation?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, this we didn't necessarily explicitly speak to this, but you know, any reputable contractor is going to be offering a warranty, right, on their project. So, hey, look, if their trust was there, for example, and you proactively release the holdback, just reach out to them, right? If you know, and in almost every situation, look, it's their reputation as well, right? Contractors want to make sure they're getting repeat business and they've got a good reputation, you know, in their region. So almost certainly, if it's obviously within scope and they missed it, they'll come back and get it taken care of. And you'll likely have a warranty, a project completion document, something that specifically states that. So I think it's just a easy and simple reach out, clearly show and document the areas, right? Misses happen. They're not the end of the world, right? It's not ideal, but they happen. Just show them and they will likely get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, in construct, it's Vancouver's a relatively small market. Building maintenance, construction services, reputation, good or bad, spreads fast. So any legit contractor is just going to come back and fix it for you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all the open questions that we had for now. If there's anything additional, guys, please feel free to reach out. As I said, you know, questions might arise after this session is concluded. More than happy to follow up and address those with you guys directly. So just to wrap things up, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that we do offer these lunch and learns, and they can be valuable for your team. So we'd love to discuss the opportunity for us to present to your office, dive deeper into any of these topics that you see on the screen. So please feel free to reach out. More than happy to discuss details. In terms of next steps from here and how you can apply this content and tools that we just went over, we're going to be sending you guys resources, which will include access to this deck, a recording of this session so you can revisit anything, and the tools and templates that we went over. A note on those tools and templates: once they're sent, they are going to look slightly different than as they were represented in this presentation, but that was merely just a formatting thing. But you're more than happy to take those. You can repurpose them any way that you see fit and apply them directly to any of your upcoming projects. And again, please contact us if you have any projects that you would like us to come and take a look at. We'd be happy to provide an inspection, or if you have any outstanding questions, or perhaps something comes to mind after we conclude here, reach out and we're happy to help. Well, that concludes our final web shop of 2024 and part 3 of our Beyond Pricing Quality series. We will be back in 2025 with more web shops with exciting content. So we'll ensure that everyone in this call today gets a direct invite, as we'd love to see you guys back here. But until then, good luck with all your upcoming projects. We look forward to speaking with you guys again very soon. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.